The Cullen house, normally wrapped in elegant calm, had become a silent sanctuary. Tense. The walls echoed with Esme's soft footsteps, with Carlyle's held breath, with Edward's tightly interlaced fingers that never left Bella's. She lay on the reinforced couch in the living room, pale, her belly swollen under the blanket, her eyes open, calm. But beneath that calm, something was boiling. The pregnancy was progressing faster than anyone thought possible. Beyond biological limits, beyond even vampiric logic. But it wasn't just that. Something new had begun, something even Alice couldn't foresee. "I felt it last night," Edward murmured to Carlyle, his brow furrowed deeper than ever before. "It wasn't just movement. It was an image." Carlyle frowned, placing a hand on his shoulder. "An image? Not mine, not Alice's. It came from inside Bella. It was brief, painful, the forest burning, she was crying, and a voice, my voice, but desperate." Silence fell. Esme stopped moving her hands. Jasper in the back turned his head. Even Rosalie, always so focused on protecting the pregnancy at all costs, stopped talking. "You're saying the fetus showed you that?" Jasper asked, incredulous. Edward nodded, and it hasn't been the only time. Every night, an image, some beautiful, our daughter in Bella's arms, healthy, smiling, laughing. But others, his voice broke, others wake me choking. Bella watched them all silently. Her hands rested on her belly, as if trying to calm the one moving inside. In her own way, she had begun to feel it too. Not in images, but in emotions, waves of fear, tenderness, deep sadness, and something harder to name: expectation. As if that little creature already knew everything depended on a decision not yet made. Later, Edward sat alone with her again. He sat beside her, gently caressing her hand. "What if she's not ready for this world, Bella? What if she's warning us?" Bella didn't answer right away. She closed her eyes. She felt every cell in her body vibrate with a different energy. She was exhausted, broken, but also full, overflowing, as if she was more than herself. "What if she is?" she whispered. "What if the visions aren't warnings, but options?" Edward hadn't thought of that. That night, falling asleep with his head resting against her belly, the vision returned. The flowered meadow, Bella, human, alive, the child running, laughing, a soft voice, "Daddy." Then, the sharp shift, a storm, the Cullens scattered, the house in ruins, a scream. Edward woke with a jolt, sweating, gasping, though he didn't need to. In the corner of the living room, Alice stood, pale. "I saw it," she whispered, "just for a moment. Something else is coming, something that isn't our child." Edward's eyes met Bella's, and in her belly, the movement stopped, as if the creature inside had heard it too, as if it was waiting for their decision. And suddenly, the birth was no longer just another step. It became a choice between futures, between hope and possible destruction. The morning arrived with a heavy silence, unusual even for the Cullen house. Outside, the rain beat against the glass as if the world insisted on being noticed. Inside, everyone moved cautiously, as if every word or gesture might tip fate toward an abyss or a miracle. Edward stayed beside Bella, his eyes fixed on her face, paler than any vampire's. Despite the visible exhaustion, her expression was calm. She had come to a conviction stronger than fear. "It's not just about what's coming anymore," she whispered against his chest. "It's about who is coming." Edward swallowed. He knew it too. He felt it. The creature inside her wasn't just a hybrid. It was something new, something that absorbed the world before birth and reflected it back to them in fragments of possible futures. And yet, it didn't convey hatred or evil. It only showed paths. "What if we choose wrong?" he murmured. "Then," Bella answered, looking straight into his eyes, "we face it together." The next vision came at dawn. Edward didn't sleep. Sitting beside Bella, his forehead resting on her belly, he received it without resistance. This time it was different. Clear, calm, a peaceful beach, the sound of waves. Bella standing, holding a girl with reddish-brown hair, eyes just like hers. Esme laughing in the distance. Jasper tossing shells into the water. The peace wasn't artificial, it was real. But underneath, something pulsed, a distant whisper, as if balance only existed as long as the course remained undisturbed. When Edward opened his eyes, a thought matured inside him. It wasn't about choosing for or against the birth. It was about preparing, about trusting, yes, but also about being ready to protect what they loved. Carlyle activated every protocol he had ever studied. Rosalie, despite the tensions, stood firm. Alice couldn't see anything of the outcome, but she stayed close, just in case. Jasper held the doorway as if his presence alone could calm the entire universe. And Edward didn't leave Bella's side for a second. When labor began, the entire house held its breath. It was brutal. Bella screamed. Her body, still human, broke under the pressure of something she didn't fully understand. Edward held her, not with vampire strength, but with the resolve of a soul that refused to let her be alone. And then, it happened. The cry. Not a monster's wail, not a roar, like music, soft, harmonic. A girl, warm skin, dark eyes at first, but lightning, as if absorbing light. Renesmee, Bella didn't survive as a human. Her heart stopped seconds later. But Edward already knew. He was ready. He bit her gently, without panic, without rush. Not to change her out of desperation, but to fulfill the plan they had agreed upon. Bella woke up days later, different, whole. And then they understood. The visions weren't warnings. They were choices. Not about what would come, but about who they would be when it was over. Years later, Renesmee ran through the Forks woods, her laughter like bells. Edward and Bella watched her from the porch, her hand intertwined with his. "Do you still hear anything from her?" Bella asked. Edward shook his head with a soft smile. "No, just thoughts of a happy child. No visions, no shadows, just the present." Bella rested her head on his shoulder. "Then we chose well." Edward nodded. "Yes, and if she ever shows us the future again, this time we'll know how to walk toward the right one."